Hi, Eckhart. I just want to thank your consciousness for your teachings. Thank you very much. Did I say it right this time? I strive to be a role model of presence for my 2-year-old son, Teddy. But if I send him to preschool, he may be influenced by unconscious teachers and other adults there who do not know about your teachings. My instinct tells me to homeschool him until he can reach a certain level of consciousness. If my son was your child, what would you do? And my second question is this. Millions of parents, teachers, grandparents, educators are crying out for a roadmap for applying your teachings. Can you please create a lecture series and a book to help adults raise the consciousness of the next generation?
Thank you. Well, the second question, let's start with that first. If that happens, then that will happen. I don't start with an intention. It's just when something wants to come through, it comes. Right now I feel that the consciousness is increasingly moving through human beings, and quite a few teachers too, that thing will be created through them, through the consciousness moving through people who are already in the educational establishment, and they will have experienced with that, they know what's wrong with it, and consciousness will use them to bring about what you are talking about. Maybe it'll use this form too, we'll see. So that, I'm sure, will happen. I already know individual teachers who are bringing in consciousness. It's not part of the official curriculum, but they are doing it, it's happening. So this is how change usually starts. It's from the bottom up, not by imposing a new system from the top, but the change starts from the bottom and then seeps up and then reaches the top until finally it becomes part of the curriculum. In a few years,
we would love that.
Hopefully,
yeah.
We'll see. Mm-hmm. And then your child, what age would your child
He's 2 right now,
2.
so because of your teachings, I'm able to be very aware of how I act with him, and
Yes.
I'm, soaking up this time to give him formless attention, being the presence,
Yes.
letting him play in the dirt and not label it, having
Yes.
him use his senses and just be with the dirt and not care about if he gets dirty or not. It's
Yes.
because of your teachings that my parenting philosophy has drastically changed. And I don't meet a lot of educators out there that I feel that could kind of give him that, presence for
Yes.
him while he's soaking up pain bodies here and there. I kind of want to be that foundation. And so
Yes.
the only solution I can come up with is that I should homeschool him until he gets a little bit older and he's able to practice, he has a certain level of consciousness. So I don't know if you have any other suggestions.
In any case, it's not too good to send them to school at too early an age. So you also have to, there are some types of schools that are better than others. If such a school is in your vicinity where you live, Rudolf Steiner schools or Montessori, or these are alternative schools, and some of those schools are aware that a child at an early age should not yet be burdened with too much conceptual knowledge or mathematics also, and keep the child in touch with sensory reality. They encourage that. So if you can find a school like that, a kind of alternative school, that may be acceptable. And then you have to look at what other, if those are not where you live, see what the schools are like there. Eventually, the child will have to interact with other children. I wouldn't send a child to school at such an early age in any case, or even teach writing too soon. Sometimes these days it's taught far too soon. If the school is not, it's not alternative, but not too bad, because there are huge differences in levels of consciousness in schools, then you may have to send him to school and then compensate for what he learns there to some extent at home. The home environment is still very, very important for a child, and to some extent can compensate for what happens at school. School is much harder to compensate when the home environment is bad. It's harder for the school to compensate for the bad home environment, bad meaning unconscious, than for home to compensate for a relatively unconscious school environment. So the home environment is more fundamental than the school. But be careful and use your intuition, and then you'll do the right thing. You cannot protect your child too much from the unconsciousness of the world. That this may be a temptation,
Yeah, it is
but
a temptation.
sooner or later, your child, one way or another, will come into contact with the unconsciousness. If you prolong it for not extreme forms of unconsciousness, but some forms of unconsciousness, if you delay it for too long, then it's like keeping a plant in a hothouse for too long, and then finally when you think, okay, well, the plant is big enough to put outside now, but it's never been outside, and then it may struggle to survive outside. The challenges of life, and many of the challenges of life are challenges of unconsciousness in the world that we live in. They are actually a vital part also of the awakening. So many parents want to remove challenges. To some extent, it's a good thing to, of course, not to expose a child to damaging environments. Yes, that's all good. But you cannot remove all the challenges, nor would that be a good thing. So
there's
the
a
child
balance.
will grow in consciousness by encountering unconscious humans, including unconscious children. So, of course, you wouldn't want to send a child to a school where there's a lot of physical violence, definitely not. But milder forms of unconsciousness the child will come into contact with, and at first it's a form of suffering, but then he will grow in consciousness through that generates more consciousness.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.